today is that you've got sunshine, clear air. The streets have been, oh man, I guess I'm not ready for to talk on the phone right now. Still sleepy. Yeah, by the way, I went out and got really, really wasted last night, like all artists do before an interview. They're unable to be coherent and their eyes are red. They have to wear sunshades. And yeah, I just wanted to be ready, man. I wanted this to be authentic. So I drank 2 bottles of Jack Daniels and a few Jägermeister bombs. And yeah, I had to go party till 4 o'clock in the morning so that my voice could be all raspy. I crashed a concert and took the microphone, and I was, arrested. Got out because my lawyer was in town. Yeah, it's quite heavy to tell you all this right now. I'm sorry.
Hi y'all, and welcome to the Dirty Ambiance podcast. We are boom operators talking to persons of interest within our and other departments. We're looking to have discussions about sound solutions, humorous ideas, small sets, the European film industry, as well as the world industry at large, to communicate, learn, and spread a little aloha along the way.
First person I would introduce myself to would be the sound person, and because they would make me sound good, and then I would introduce myself to the gaffer and cinematographer immediately. Yeah. Like those were the first 3 in a row.
Sure.
And then the director.
Yeah.
So like, because I wanted to look good, sound good, be well lit, and...
Sure. And if none of those things work, then there's no reason to have a director in the first place.
Yeah.
Slightly in the one that was the extended version that you could get on DVD, but he still was not incorporated the way that he was in the book. But I feel like most people were pretty satisfied.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Moses.
I watch all these documentaries on, like, just Francis Bacon. I don't know if you've ever seen this guy. He's got like this twisted face, but all of his paintings are just as twisted as his face is.
I'm gonna do one clap really quick.
Let's do it. 3 rolling.
So, Francis Bacon.
Yeah. That's where some of my inspiration comes from. It's like watching all these documentaries.
Was he a sir?
Yeah, he's Sir Francis Bacon.
Yeah, why is he a sir? Where did that come from?
Well, if you think about it, in the times when he was painting in the 60s, he's coming in the same time as David Hockney, Lucian Freud. Lucian Freud is, yeah.
Damn, dude.
So Lucian Freud is the nephew of Sigmund Freud.
Okay.
Yeah, so the whole psychoanalysis stuff that was going on back in that time.
That came out of...
Of the thoughts of Sigmund Freud.
Relations.
And Lucian Freud painted his children, but he had like 17 children or even more, and he wouldn't even spend time with them. He would only have them pose for him, and that was basically the only time he spent time with his kids, and they had to pose nude.
As in, oh wait, whoa, yeah. we just went real crazy, real quick. Oh man. As in no conversation, just stand nude and
yeah, or sit, or however he would have them displayed, and you know, it was just he was all work and no play.
He would have them displayed.
he painted so many people in his lifetime, and you know, coming through that whole thing, watching all of these documentaries about people and what affected them, you know, that goes through my work, and it, you know, coming up in a world like this, you just keep pushing and looking for something that you're not trying to document the world, but you're just looking for how do you display your own psyche. And so when I ask people to model for me, I already know all of the different scenarios that could come out of it. Like how could they respond, if they're gonna respond, and to get a sitter to come to your studio, that's like...
You mean if they're gonna respond when you make contact?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, some people just keep walking. Oh, you're a painter, and they just keep going. Or they ask and they want to know more information. They say, oh, I'm going to come by, and they don't come by. And you're sitting there. You have a meeting because I want to show them the work first. Explain to them about my education, where I'm coming from, my influences, and then sometimes they show up and just want to see the work, like it's a zoo or something. And then they say, oh, I don't really have time today. I'll come again the next time. And you know it. You see it in their eyes. They're not coming back.
They're not coming back.
They're not coming back.
No.
So that was one thing that...
Totally nice to meet you, but definitely not what I'm looking for. I say it all.
It's not about those pretty pictures you see in museums sometimes. Real artists have to create real artwork that speaks about them and whatever they're going through. And that's the thing where no one can really recognize genius in contemporary art. It has to come afterwards. I mean, the normal person, they need to see it on television, they need to see it in a museum before they believe in what it is.
Some other type of media that really puts it out there as this is something before they believe it to be something.
Yeah, if it doesn't have the stamp of Sotheby's, then you could be
Sotheby's.
You could be Jackson Pollock, splashing paint around with all of your great ideas, but you don't have that seal of approval.
Imagine how many people turn down incredible people for modeling and stuff like this in the situation, in the moment when they were looking for it.
Yeah, and they needed exactly that model to. We can look at Van Gogh. You know, for me, it's not about my own work. It's about the whole the whole consensus of art in itself. Where these really quiet artists, they suffer a lot because they don't even get in touch with people in a normal way. They have to really focus on nature. So Van Gogh came through the situation where he was focusing a lot on nature, painting outside, cornfields and stuff. You know, you're in Holland, you got all these flatlands, and he's out there painting straw on the ground, getting his influence through Asian print making and calligraphy, watercolor. And there was no internet back then, so you know, he had to get postcards and stuff and use that as a reference to build his type of mark making.
What was the timeline of that? When was he alive?
Oh, I'm thinking 1860, something like that. You know, I've had all sorts of art history classes. You chew it up and you have to swallow it and you have to let it go.
Yeah.
So I'm no real art historian. Yeah. I never fell asleep in the classes.
Sure, but unless you're using that like you're in some way associated with a museum or something like that, and you're constantly going through the situation of explaining when this happened, how it happened, who they were, when they were alive, all of these kinds of things. It's definitely information that goes out the window that's not part of your everyday life. Yeah. I've got plenty of experiences with that. I started with. Have I ever told you I used to be a sommelier, but for cigars?
For cigars?
For tobacco, a tobacconist. Yeah, I forgot it all.
Ooh.
I forgot it all. I mean, I know some basics like, well, there's 3 parts to a cigar as far as filler, binder, wrapper, that kind of a thing, how it's aged and whatnot, but other than that, it's gone.
Because you weren't doing it often?
Sure, I mean,
living and breathing it?
Yeah, once I left and did the horse thing, and then after the horse thing coming, the film thing.
Wait, what horse thing?
What horse thing?
Yeah, tell me about the horse thing.
We've never talked about the horse thing? No, I've got family that do osteopathy and chiropractic work for horses, on horses.
How do you know when a horse is having bone problems? By the way it's walking?
Well, I mean, you can look at the way it's walking, you can... So that would say body language, look at their body language, see how they're reacting to, say, a saddle or someone sitting on them, or even, as we said, walking. So if you walk them just on a halter and a line, a rope, and just look at the way they're moving. So are their hips actually swinging or not, stuff like that. But then, of course, when it comes down to saddles and people being on them and things, are they giving you a lot of shit? Are they telling you, hey, this fucking hurts, this is bad.
Sway back, and stuff like that. Yeah, even young horses can get it. If someone's too heavy, has been riding them while they were training. So I grew up...
Someone too heavy, sure, but a large part of it is if you're not in balance. If you don't actually know how to move on that horse and stay with it. So weight, of course, plays a large part, but yeah, if you're not in tune with how that horse moves, and you're working against it as it moves, then yeah, you're going to create a lot of problems. And yeah, so I started learning that, and then ended up becoming a hoofschmied, a farrier instead. And yeah, I was planning on making a business doing that, but things fell through, and as I was in this really dark place in the middle of winter in Bavaria, along came Sylvester, and a lovely person that brought along his own Prosecco that no one else at the party liked except for him and I. So we consumed a wonderful 3 bottles of this beautiful Prosecco, and started sharing music the entire night and having conversations and stuff like this. And the next day I was like, dude, please give me a job, because he owned a production company in Munich.
A what company?
A film production company. Yeah. And
now you're in your 3rd life.
Yeah, now I'm in my third. Well, that's 6th life, 7th life.
Yeah.
Something like that. Sure. Yeah. Tobacconist wasn't the first.
There are so many roads, man. It's like, it shows how creative you are. You move from one thing to the next. You keep moving.
Sure.
Staying relevant. That's the thing. Relevant to who you want to be. That's the same thing in painting. I can't just stick with one thing. I'm like, okay, I like that over there now. Yeah, these paintings they've done what they've done. That's done what it's done. Still got a brush in my hand. I'm still vibrant.
Well, I mean, if you can look at the amount of difference in style that's going on between all of these wonderful paintings that we've been able to light this set with to give it so much life and beauty. Would you feel like describing any of those differences? I mean, if the lovely one back here behind you with your son.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could just start here. I mean, if we look at this is it's based on a Greek mythology, on the story of Apollo and Daphne.
Okay.
So Apollo met with Amor, is what he's called in German, Apollo and Amor. So Apollo and Cupid, they met, and Apollo said, bow and arrow is nothing for a little boy. These are men's weapons, like that. I'm reading this, and I'm interpreting it in my mind. I'm reading the text. Yeah. These are men's weapons. Give them to me. You go play. And Cupid was hurt. But what Cupid couldn't fight him physically.
Okay.
This is Apollo. He would smash Cupid. So Cupid had to be smart. So Cupid had the power of using arrows of love and hate. And he could use that in his defense. And so when Apollo had any woman he wanted, any type of fairy or mystical, beautiful creatures that he wanted. And so he set his eyes upon Daphne in like a meadow. Cupid saw that from a hill, and as Apollo descended upon Daphne, he shot Daphne with the arrow of hate.
Ooh.
And it was at this point that Apollo chased her, and he was whispering into her ear, don't run so fast, I'll only catch up with you, and whisper in your ear or something like this. And so I'm reading all these things, and Cupid is watching, Apollo is chasing. As Apollo approached her, he was able to only grab her as she was changing into an olive tree. And that was as she had asked her father Zeus, save me from this or kill me. If I were to reread the text, it would sound more eloquently, but that moment when he grabbed her, he only touched the bark of the olive tree. He never touched her. She transformed into this tree.
So was that the way of Zeus kind of killing her or giving her her wish of killing her?
He gave her her wish because the laurel branch, when you go into victory and they set this laurel wreath over your head, that's where this comes from. This this type of victory moment, and you'll see it in universities as well, and it's coming from this story. Because Apollo said, although I cannot touch you, I will use your branches as a laureate. And he So like if you see Caesar, he has this laurel on over his head.
Wreath,
And you'll see that on all the statues and stuff. It's like I can't remember it all right now, but when you graduate, then you get this laurel wreath over your head. And so that just inspired me. And in telling more of the story, it's like I don't try to stick to Greek mythology. I change the figures. You know, I bring it more modern. I bring it to people who are a bit closer to me. So in this painting, I have my son and a friend of mine who's also an artist who posed for this painting. And, you know, bringing people into your studio, and then again, if you're using your children in your work, you know, you're thinking about censorship, and this is gonna be forever, and when he's 18 or when he's 30, he's gonna look back and say, oh, you painted me like this. And so you try to do something that uplifts people so that they are remembered, you know, in a respectful way for the millennia. You know, when you think about artwork that has been buried or found and they dust it off and they restore it, wow, look at this painting. Sure. And so you have people who you just try to give this everlasting life. And if I move on, I mean, the piece that's right behind us, we see this torso. And this was painted during my master's degree back when I was studying in Rome, Italy. And I did a series on the 13 stations of the cross. You know, you're surrounded by Christianity. You go into all of these different churches. It doesn't matter which types of artists that were there that painted. You would see the 13 stations of the cross. So you're confronted with this type of imagery where you wouldn't have to read it. You just look at the paintings and you understand.
Okay.
And
what do you mean by the 13 stations?
So Jesus's passage to the cross, it happened in 13 points where he stopped. He had to stop. His last stop was when he was hanging on the cross.
Gotcha.
You know, in the story, you know, if you're religious and if you believe in Christianity, then you'll be able to research this and read about it in the Bible, about how the people who were closest to him started doubting him, throwing things at him. And but you know, I took this story of Christ, and I created my 13 stations of the cross that I carry as an artist. And this painting behind us, this half torso, the title of it is Resistance. So,
okay.
And when in modern days you have a lot of people traveling all over the world, soldiers going into battle. You have a lot of American soldiers all over the place. When I created this painting, I didn't have this head of hair. My hair was closely shaved, and I was maybe 30 pounds heavier, so I looked more like a soldier.
Okay.
So a lot of people thought I was a soldier living abroad, and every time I would have to tell them, no, I'm an artist. What do you mean you're an artist? But you're an American, and you're here. How long you've been here? And you have to tell them this whole story, and I say, I'm here studying art. And why do you have to go so far? Can't you study art in America? I was like, yeah, you can look in books, you can go to museums, but I wanted to extend that. I wanted to take this another step and make it a part of my lifestyle. Walk down the streets where artists that I respected, you know, lived and eat the food that they ate. Of course, you can go to these little restaurants, but go to these little trattoria, the little restaurants in Italy, which are still owned by the same family names from 100 years ago. Now that's all changing because of modernization, gentrification, and the financial system that we live in now. You know, people are being bought out, palazzo this, palazzo that, McDonald's.
Yeah.
And or Versace, everything is being bought out and changed. And so I think back in 2005 was one of the real last times when you could go and walk through the streets of Rome and still feel like you were in the Eternal City.
Okay.
Because everything has just been ran over with commerce. You know, big billboards here, billboards there, and it's an atrocity for the culture there because the people who normally would walk those streets would greet you, but now there are so many tourists around who aren't careful of the culture that they encounter until they just overlook it and bring in their own, how do I call it, you know, looking out for whatever market they can develop. and extort the tourists who are coming. So you have all these little trinkets and things around that are distracting from the architecture, distracting from the artwork that is around, the sculptures, the paintings, the fountains, the gardens. Not enough people are walking through the gardens just breathing normal air. They've got to be in these air-conditioned buildings. So Back to Resistance is just a type of response to just the world eating away at you in a sense. But it also, to talk about the 13 Stations of the Cross, I went back into Egyptian styles of mummification.
Okay.
So this may not make a lot of sense, but it's like, where do you find your influences to create a painting like that? And only when you look at it and really force yourself to confront what the artist is going through. So there you only see a half torso, you're thinking, this is very explosive, it looks very dangerous, and it is, some would call it anime nowadays, but first of all, you have to know the anatomy to get rib cages to look like that.
Sure.
So to have this head tilted back and this presence coming through a painting like that, you know, the Egyptian form of mummification, they would save the heart, they would save the eyes in a jar, they would save the tongue in a jar, but
the brain out too, right?
the brain they would take out with a skewer and throw it away, because this gray mass would melt and destroy the entire corpse.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they had to get rid of the brain mass, the brain matter. But they didn't think it was worth carrying over into the afterlife. But as we know now, today, we are our brains. You're not your heart. You can have a heart transplant. You can have eye transplant. I don't know if you can transplant a tongue, but the thing is that we are our minds.
No brain transplant.
No, there's no brain transplant. Yeah, so that's that, man. And it goes further and further. And as the painting was fresh, there were a lot more thoughts that came into it. And that was just another station of this series of 13 paintings that I wanted to create in response to the 13 Stations of the Cross.
Did you finish the 13?
I've created 13, but it doesn't stop there, you know?
Okay.
It's like, okay, even at this point, you continue working, and you have to stop thinking about the 13 stations. It was in my mind for a long time. Even this one on this side has something to do with it, but I was moving away from it. There are remnants of a certain situation. So if we look at an image of the Christ child, who is Christ? This child is in this particular painting significant in that there is a flame, a sort of a symbolism of a flame being on the head for this intelligence that we become when we're born. It is.
This one specifically, if you want to keep talking, I believe is not on camera at the moment, but I'll just get it in really quick. Something like that.
So the title of it is called "As We Are Born," and you have a mother who's holding her child, and the hair being blown away, and in the background there's this half torso of what could be the father, who has been killed and dismembered in war.
Yeah.
And what we see today, it still rings true as what's going on in the Ukraine right now. You see the images on CNN, BBC, World News, NBC, World News, of this atrocity that's going on. And even though, I mean, I just want to say it like this, they're speaking of the pillaging of the women, I'll say it like that, rapes that are happening. There will be children born who won't know the identities of their fathers. So in this picture, some may say this is a dark baby, but I've painted this child so that you can actually see through it. Because of the innocence of the child, you actually see through the child. Yeah.
Wow.
Who knows their entire heritage? None of us. Of course, we're all here on earth, and that's about all we know. People are letting their heritage be found out by a string of hair that they send in to some company in order to find out if they've got some Norwegian in them or some some Indio, and all of this stuff. But it's really irrelevant. We just have to realize that we're all here, and we've got to find a way to get along. And so, in some of when I look at other artists' work, I'm like, what does your work have to say to society? Mm-hmm. And that's a big thing. It's like, how long do I have to look at this piece of candy? Mm-hmm. Candy artwork doesn't hold true for so long. So that's where pop art sometimes falls out for me, because it's just about the placativeness. But there is an audience for that, but you won't find me making pop art. It has its own following, and you have to, when you think about pop art, what it means, popular culture. That's what it's. Sure. That's where it gets its name from, popular culture. And what has popular culture led us to? You can answer that for yourself. What is popular culture? You buy your clothes based on brand rather than if it's helping the environment or not. And clothes that are being produced by these companies, they're being produced by children in really desolate environments and bad working environments. Mm-hmm. But I've got that brand, I've got that emblem on. Sure. And that is just something that an artist has to think about when you're looking for something that's going to speak for years and years and years. What does your work mean for society? Mm. What significance will it have? And so you won't always be popular, much like other artists. Like I say, Van Gogh, he wasn't popular in his time. It came much later, and it took a lot of work to get his artwork noticed. That his brother saved his work. That his brother's wife really wrote to different collectors after his death, mm-hmm. to say, "Hey, come please look at this work. Look at this work. Look at this work. Keep the collection together." Mm-hmm. And now, wow, we go in and we're just looking at nature. We're looking at a lot of sunflowers, mm-hmm. but those sunflowers were much brighter when they were painted. He painted them in high-key colors, knowing that the paint itself would take on a oxidation or so. Oxidation. Yeah. Yes, and so those colors are much muted now. Mm-hmm. And they are now, those lively paintings, those flowers are dying in stasis. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's like they're losing all their lackluster and they're becoming what he was looking at when he painted them. Mm-hmm. Knowing that after 100 years or so, this is what's going to happen to the color. How do you do that? He wanted to become a preacher, but he wasn't a good speaker. He wasn't a good orator. Okay. Yeah. He tried many things. He tried law. He just wasn't able to do that stuff. Mm-hmm. But he laid down the law in his paintings.
Thank you, sir.
He laid down the law in his paintings. So if you go to Amsterdam, if you go to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, you can see a lot of his works. And, it's also dated in the style that he painted most of his pieces, sort of these gaudy figures. But when he really went very personal, painting his psychiatrist, he really went in and added illustrious backgrounds and the trees in the psychiatry wards. He was looking out of the window, painting these spring blossoms in this really solemn way. And of course, those paintings didn't oxidize. He knew which paints he was using. So they're still just as fresh as they were painted. Okay. Yeah. So he knew what he was doing with the sunflowers. Okay. People were like, "Oh, sunflowers are too bright." Shit.
Just wait 100 years.
Just wait 100 years. I know I'm talking my ass off, but it's like,
no, please.
It's really not about me in my artwork. It's about the history of art itself that I like to hold the candle up to, yeah, for people to see.
I would say that's very similar to the drive and the push and the not battle, but yeah, maybe drive is the right word for Martin Scorsese. What he's really getting at as far as save mm-hmm. film, mm-hmm. all of these works of film that because it's not digital, it's something that's physical. You have to keep it in some way. You have to understand that is something that will deteriorate over time. It needs to be either replicated or saved within the situation that it is, or the... Lost my words on that one, but yes. Very similar.
Scorsese.
Very similar. Scorsese, sure.
Yeah, look at the camera work, you know?
Yeah.
Look at the shots that he's setting up. You just have to watch it again and again.
Sure.
Because there's something that you're gonna miss. You can't see it all.
The first time I saw Raging Bull, have you seen it?
I probably didn't.
So I think it's De Niro. Luca, is it De Niro in Raging Bull? You're not sure? I think it was De Niro.
No, I should have watched it.
Either way, it's black and white. It's a fucking incredibly shot movie. But I remember watching it for the first time, and as it ended, it was late at night, and I hated it.
You hated it that it ended.
Hated it. After the end and everything, just
you
the
hated
feeling,
the movie.
The feeling that it left me with was like this feeling of just intense, like, fuck, I hated this. I did not like it. And I think I slept on it a night, and it wasn't until the next day where something popped into my mind, or I caught this little idea of, I hated this movie because I hated the character so much. So De Niro's character is this very aggressive, abusive person. And for me, it was just like this light bulb moment of, holy fuck.
They got you.
They got me, but got me in a way that is one of the most unbelievably amazing things. When an actor puts across a being that intense, that he goes so deep into a role, or they go so deep into a role to really get you, to just so fucking get you to hate them, to not like them. And I'm not sure if everyone got that thing out of it, but I'm sure he was not written to be a lovable character, not written to be a likable character.
No way, not if you hate it after the thing's over and you just can't even get to sleep after.
That in itself created the love for the situation, the directing, the writing, the acting, all of it. And so, yes, it is very much a movie that I love at this point, but to be left with a feeling of hatred after a movie just because of how fucking horrible.
I gotta watch that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I gotta watch that.
Check it out.
Yeah, man. You ever watch anything about Orson Welles? The movie Fake?
Yeah. Unfortunately not. No.
That's something, because he goes into telling a story about Picasso and how he was a womanizer.
Okay.
And how he got his models and how he drove women crazy.
Okay.
A little bit about that, how he's following them and looking and then sort of getting in contact with them. And he's talking also about some other artist, I can't remember his name, but he was faking paintings also. This other artist, I can't remember his name. He lived in Ibiza.
Okay.
But I can't remember the name right now. It kind of sucks that I can't, but that's how
faking paintings, you mean in the sense of...
making a Modigliani and selling it to a museum or selling it to a collector saying it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But I don't think he was signing them. He was just painting them in the styles. Yeah. Well, he wasn't really counterfeiting them. He was just painting in the style of. Okay. He didn't sign Modigliani.
Yeah. Okay, so just...
That painting is missing from this series, and I'm going to make this now. Yeah.
So an easily recognizable style that's being recreated.
Yeah, but so believable.
Incredible. So there's one last painting, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's two more.
Oh, there's two more.
There's this one here and there's that one there.
Yeah, we could talk about that cutie back there. Yeah, I had a model. You know, I put up some model requests and a lot of different, like through Facebook or on model search websites where they want to, you know, pose for photos because they're professional models. And I just wrote to this one model. She's living in France. You never know who's going to come or because Germany is so central. It's like an hour away.
Yeah.
She actually flew out from France.
Holy shit.
She came and posed for me. And it was just a really cool situation where someone says, yes, and I'm coming on this date, and I love your work. I want to be a part of your I don't want to say oeuvre, but I want to be a part of your collection, she says. And I was like, okay, wow. So I'm in my studio, I'm working, and I get the response. And then next thing I know, days later, I had, I didn't really forget about her. Neither did I forget about the date that we were meeting, but I was working on something else. The doorbell rings. And it wasn't the mailman. So I go and open the door, and there she was. So I was like, you're here. Boom, you know. And so that's how we got started. And so this piece is also about Apollo and Daphne. It's basically about the other qualities of Daphne, the fleshiness of Daphne, and what it is to be in the pose or in the position of Apollo. And placing myself as Apollo in that moment, you have a model in front of you and all of the stereotypes that go with what an artist does with their model. And you're in a room with a woman, and what do people know about that? The door is closed. It's a one-on-one type of a situation. I build trust with this type of a situation so that the next artist that she poses for, she can speak about the previous artist and says, I was respected as a model. I wasn't touched. I was honored, made coffee, offered me food, offered me lunch, and played music, asked me for my playlist. That's what I do. I was like, make me a playlist, things that you're comfortable listening to. Get into the mood of being this figure and try to embody that figure. So 2 hours of looking for poses, taking pictures, and getting her into some drawings and things. And then at the next moment, she's gone. And you're left with that, I have to make something out of it, because this was some person's time. And she paid for her own flight. She wouldn't let me reimburse her for anything. She was like, I really love your work. I want to be a part of it. Let me know when you finish. Send me some images. Boy, that's pressure, because it's my name going out there. And I don't want it to be some bad story. So when they speak about Moses out there in the world somewhere, and it's a name that is not totally mine, It's like I'm a caregiver of this name. And that's something you don't meet many of. If someone out there says Moses, how many Moseses do I know? There's that one guy in Cologne, and maybe there's the one in the Bible, and there's Moses Hogan and a few. But contemporary artist, and then with dreadlocks and living in this city, just one. So you can't make, you have to put your best foot forward and
there's a reputation to uphold.
Yeah, the reputation of it. Yeah. So I can really get into that one because oil on canvas is my thing, and using black as a background, it just eliminates everything else that is a distraction to what's actually going on. It's a very, the focus can move from her navel to where her knee is. It can move up around her forearms and then moving under her chin and into this look in her eyes. And the underpainting for that, the drawing that was underneath, it developed in such a way until I wasn't in control. I was possessed of this, it has to feel right. But I don't know what that looks like. I have the images of the model, I have the feeling of what it was to have her there, but every little brush stroke adds up to something. Do you go beyond what it was and make it something that is totally not in your style of painting, or do you hold yourself back? But I felt really comfortable with where I stopped there, and I knew this is finished.
Dude, for me, everything is about the look on her face, the expression. That's the focal point of the entire thing.
And then finding the position. If you study the Fibonacci sequence, if you study the golden means or the rule of thirds, all of these mathematical equations have to be addressed. Leonardo da Vinci was doing it, Michelangelo was doing it, Pontormo. All artists are looking for that sweet spot. And so they refer back to math. And so this was one of the few paintings where I was really consciously trying to make sure that I at least got the math right. Looking at that diagonal in the entire image, from looking at below the knee and back up to her left eye. So you're hitting the rule of thirds on certain points there. And then when you think about the golden spiral,
Okay.
it's all there. So you can't, you create perfection through a different sense. It's not just I don't know, it's nothing that I studied. There's just rules that when you follow it, you get closer to this sense of beauty. Now, could I have done that with another model? Maybe, but you know, she was the one that I wanted to put in this type of a pose, and you know, it all has to do with proportions and body styles too. How comfortable is a model in front of you? They can be really stiff, and you can't get anything out of it.
Sure.
You're just frustrated. She's beautiful, but she's just not moving right.
Sure.
And you can't, you know, you don't want to touch people, but it's like, okay, move your head like this, and move that over there, and it's all fake.
Sure.
And so I was like, no, can't work with you. I've had that happen 2 or 3 times, where people wanted to do something, but they just didn't have a feeling for their own body. So there has to be some confidence from both sides.
Sure.
When I feel that confidence, I can do my thing, and when that is right, then it doesn't take long. It didn't take me 6 months to paint that.
How long did it take you?
If I said that
From photo to finish.
you know, sometimes
We'll
you know,
say from doorbell to finish.
sometimes when I'm working, it's, you know, you work 2 hours here, 5 hours there, 6 hours there, sometimes 8 hours. So it's like a full-time job. So just adding the hours up is sometimes a thing.
Yeah.
But if I look at the longevity of, if you're thinking about it in days, then it took maybe a month and a half.
Whoa.
A month and a half, because you're always thinking about it. You're always thinking about that one piece. I'm not working like 5, 6 different paintings at a time because I've got to focus on this.
Sure.
This is where I am.
Sure.
And with this one, that's where I was. I'm beyond that now. It's like I did it, I've done it, and you know, I don't have to have her back again. I still see images of it, but how many more paintings do I want to make of her? I've had moments where I say, oh, I would like to do another painting of her, but then something else comes up, and then you're in a new mood, and it's like, am I copying myself? There's some people just keep painting the same stuff. Can't do that. You know, it's a new. I'm a million different people from one day to the next. You know, and that's how I go at it. You know, so that's why my paintings they don't have to look alike. A lot of people are looking for continuity. Find continuity out there. You know, we have stoplights. We have traffic jams. There's continuity to little white lines on the street. You know, we know where we want to go, but maybe we'll take a detour to get there, or we'll just stop off at Burger King.
Sure.
You know, I'm still going home, but I'm going to sit here for a little bit. And then you get back in traffic, and then here's somebody walking across the street, and you start paying attention to that. You slow down, then somebody behind you slows down. Then that slowing down causes someone else to have a traffic jam. So getting back to a painting like that, I've seen 20,000 other people since seeing this model, and so they're all in my head. You know, when you're present, when you have someone present right in front of you, and you focus and you work just on this person, everything else goes away. There's nothing else of importance. You don't even feel your own heartbeat. You don't even think about eating. You don't even think about, I got to go to work tomorrow, or I've got a family. That shit doesn't exist. It's just you and your model, you and your painting, you and your sculpture, you and your drawing, you and your watercolor, you and your song, you and your voice lessons, you and your guitar, you and your drums, you and your clarinet, you and your acting moment where you have to recite. That's it. It's you and your ballet. It's you and your architectural design. It's you and your shoe design, clothing designs. Nobody else exists, not even you yourself. You just see your hands in front of you, or you're hearing your voice. Your body isn't even there. You're not even important. It's the creation that takes precedence. That's what happens. And when you're in that zone, you don't want to get out even to go take a piss. No,
definitely not.
You just sit there and hold it because you don't want to lose. Because if you get up, you've lost. You will never be that same person as you were when you were sitting there. You get up, you come back, and you sit down, and that brush isn't the same brush that it was in your hand. Sure. You've held it a little different way. The paint has dried a little bit. Normally, you just dip it a little bit, and you're going. You're dipping a little bit, and you're going. You go back to the toilet, you come back, the paint has sort of settled on your palette. It's gotten a little bit viscous in the brush. You've got to wash your brush out. You've got where's the towel? Well, nothing's the same anymore. So when I'm in my studio, it's silent, or I've got my music on, but it's my space, my music. It's got to be this sort of focus. The chaos is out there. This repetition, Sometimes I listen to the same song 20 times, 30 times. And I get into that rhythm. Brush, canvas, clean, another brush. And you forget all the artists. You forget everything you studied. Doesn't mean anything anymore. You're not trying to be them. You don't know what you're trying to be. You just know you have this push, this for passion.
For me, exactly what you just ended with the push for passion, forgetting everything else that came before and really focusing and being in the moment. That's exactly how I go about every single job that I've been through on a film set. This one at the moment being boom operating. It's the single lesson that I do my best to, or not lesson, but feeling to pass along to everyone that I come into contact with. That no matter what, the moment is the moment, that you're there, that you're going through this, whether it's you're doing 40 takes or 4 takes or 1 take or whatever, the best thing you can do is focus on that situation, realize every single detail in it, feel every single detail in your body, go through it, think about it, enjoy it, be passionate about it, go into some type of world that's entirely your own, focus on everything that you possibly can, and then whether that take ends or it keeps going or you do it again, that just find each and every new moment in there and give it everything you possibly can. That's where it doesn't matter how long the day is or if you got to take a piss or anything like that, that you're going to go on, keep going, and love exactly what you're doing.
Almost holding it and knowing I've got to make sure that sound is there. I've got to make sure I'm on my cue when they do what they do. Because it's all one. Without you, it doesn't work. Without them, it doesn't work. Whoever it is, whichever sound effects are going to be created there. It's the art, man. So you got to be dedicated. And I see it in your face. You're dedicated.
The lovely
You're
thing.
Beaming about what you do.
The lovely thing the lovely thing about film is the art doesn't just take place in front of the camera. I love bringing it behind the camera to every single movement that I or other people do to inspire some kind of, we'll say that word again, passion within what you're doing, whether it's figuring out how to load a lighting truck. Fuck, I can get real passionate about organization. I fucking love organization.
When it, there's certain elements that shouldn't be stacked, they need to be free or be the first thing that you grab and you pull out because of what the setup is over here.
Of course.
How those things come together. So you're playing Tetris. I love Tetris. It's Tetris, right?
Sure. Tetris within lighting, that's probably one of the best ways to put it. Or playing with Legos. Adults getting to play with Legos. You get to build things, break them down, put them away, file them away in different ways, and think about every tiny little detail of when it may or may not be used, how it may or may not be used, in what situation you can use it for.
And nobody should touch your stuff, right? Rolling your cables the wrong way, or not rolling them at all, just like wrapping them and putting them in a pile.
Getting cable spaghetti.
Oh, get out of my face. I can't have that. Hell no. Yeah.
No, for me, or yes, for sure. For me, that's the big thing about booming, to have every take be a dance, an art, that not only are you focusing on what the people might be saying, but it has everything to do with how they're moving. And once again, not to say even just in front of the camera, but behind the camera. The amount of people that are there on set, all piled up behind that camera in that hallway as we're running down with the cameraman on a fucking rickshaw, and everything's happening in that moment, and it's just it can either be madness or a beautiful procession of just
The procession.
A movement, beauty.
What if you need to cough? What happens then?
What if you need a cough? You hold that shit in.
Boy, I was just thinking, you know, a sneeze, a cough, what
Sure.
could that do right in the middle of a take?
It happens every once in a while. I mean, of course, in certain times of the year, like autumn and whatnot, when everybody's got a cold or things like that. But people get really good, really, really good at not coughing until someone yells cut, and then you just hear something like that. Sure.
They got to get it out.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
reflex, you know. You got to control those reflexes somehow.
Completely.
Or pinch your nose. You know, you have your own little ways to
Whatever
trick your
the fuck
brain.
you can do to get away from it.
Because there's nothing wrong. It's just something, gotta cough, gotta twitch, gotta... Gotta yawn. Oh, hell.
Thankfully, no. There was, usually for me, it's about laughing. Trying not to laugh.
Okay.
One amazing example I had was a situation of shooting in a studio and having a fly in the room. And microphones that are so sensitive that it sounds like a helicopter just going really far away and then coming. And hearing the dialogue happen, but then there's this fly just coming out. And then it landing right on the tip of my microphone. And situations like that where it's just like trying not to laugh. I have a brain that just finds situations like that incredibly funny. And then of course it's about just hiding your face in your arms. And, yeah.
How do you avoid something like that? Is there anything you spray to keep insects
flies?
off?
I have no idea. I mean, it doesn't happen often. I've only had it, I think, once or twice, a fly in the studio. Or one that felt like the mic was so interesting that it had to check it out. I have no idea how they keep bugs out of studios.
Any type of repellent from the equipment, though? Because, like, who finds that out? How do you edit that, you know?
I have no idea. I'm sure somebody does. I'm not a post-production person, though. I have almost no idea about post-production.
Well, we can't edit this fly out. You're just going to keep it.
Luca, do you have any idea of how to edit a fly out in post-production?
Fully.
Yeah, it's just ADR.
Maybe someone else says, I'll do those lines right now.
We need a Nachsprecher because of a fly.
That might even happen. It's like,
Sure.
hey, they go back to the actor and say, you have to get that and lip sync it with that in there, saying those lines right on point.
Totally believable. Well, I mean,
Getting back to the
that's
blueprint.
what ADR is. I mean, if you have the situation where on-set sound just doesn't cut it at all, everything that you've done, it's not a waste, but it gives the next step a very good idea of when it's said, how it's said, and capturing that on-set moment of all of the emotions that go along with it and how best to replicate it.
Could be something they could do with the highs or lows also.
Getting a fly out.
Yeah, working with highs and lows, trying to balance. And
Could be.
do they use more than one mic? So maybe there would be like from a different mic they pull something?
Could be. But usually if you have two mics in the room, they're on two different people. Or you have something like what we're wearing at the moment, where there's a lav mic on somebody and you just catch the sentence over the lav mic as opposed to the boom. So I mean, at this point we have the boom here, and if a fly were to land on that microphone, that one is probably not going to hear it. And so unless you have some situation where you got up and fixed your jacket in the moment and made a random noise over that sentence as well, then there would not necessarily be any reason to go back and do it over again. Just take the sentence off of that mic. Of course, it would have a little bit of a different sound. You don't have the complete air of the room and everything, the room tone that goes along with having a microphone like that. Of course, mics like this, this one specifically is a lot more precise and dialed in. It's really tight and really focused, whereas something that has a larger amount and catches more of the room, I'm forgetting all of the actual vocabulary to describe how mics work at the moment, but if you go back and listen to the first episode of the Dirty Ambiance podcast, Mr. Locke Lynch expresses and explains all of that stuff in great detail for 3.5 hours.
So get back to your boy. Get back to your boy for 3.5 hours?
It's about 3.5 hours, sure. He discusses so many things about microphones, how they work, polar patterns, all of these kinds of things, where why it does what it does, how it does what it does, and why you need to do what you do in the exact right way to interact with each mic in the way that it needs it.
Know your mic.
Yeah, know your mic.
Know your mic.
Mic placement, mic placement, mic placement. Mic placement. Mic choice, mic placement, mic placement, I think was it was. Yeah, sure.
But when you have a nice space and sound is there and it's right, and you know it's what you got, it's what you want, it's what you've heard, and you go back and you hear that playback and then you know it's solid, crisp, you can rest better.
Especially finding ways to get, I think with this mic it might not show up so much. Maybe with the lav mics you might hear the reverb in the room.
Yeah.
That's always one to figure out and find ways to dampen that reverb.
Speaking about dampening that reverb,
Please.
That's why paintings are good to have in a room. Because they absorb that reverb.
Have more paintings on set, guys.
Yeah,
Absorb that reverb.
Yeah, and you know all of the when you're in churches, they also have these tapestries.
Sure.
To when the choir is singing, they place them in certain ways to focus that sound.
So tapestries in churches are have a second purpose other than beauty, which is channeling sound.
It's channeling sound. You can go to the Vatican. If you go to the Vatican, in the room where the Last Judgment on the ceiling by Michelangelo is, you'll see on the walls they have tapestries as well. So that was like a chapel, a huge chapel, and so you have the choir or the organ, and so these tapestries were dampening that sound and focusing it. I don't know the terminology, but they were looking for ways to make it work. And if they even knew about acoustics or not, they just knew, oh, the room is empty, it sounds like this, let's put things in it. And the more people you put in a room, it also carries along. And when I was studying in Rome, I went to the auditorium, which was designed by Lorenzo Piano, and he cared so much about acoustics until he had an entire crew to work on the acoustic shells in the ceiling. And those it's a certain wood that they created them from. They can move. Everything is electronically controlled, and for certain audiences, they can move those turtle shells to fit the acoustic qualities that they needed.
Holy shit.
So the auditorium in Rome by Lorenzo Piano is not only artistic, but it's sound. It's thoughtful of the sounds that would be coming in there because of the orchestras that would play, or theater pieces that would happen there, or symposiums. And so it's all geared on how many people are in the room, where are they placed. If people are scattered, you know, they scan the room and see, oh, we have a concentration of people over here. Who's wearing a coat? How many people are wearing coats? And that is also affecting the sound quality.
Holy shit.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, the way that usually goes for me is situations of hiding microphones on people. So like, as I said, the things that we're wearing at the moment, depending on how we edit the sound for this episode, of course, you'll hear random things of me moving my jacket around or tapping on the mic and whatnot. And the main purpose of hiding mics on people is to not hear anything like that at all, because that's a sound that immediately tells the audience and breaks that concentration that there's a mic there.
Yeah.
There's something that's interacting with this person in a different way than just the picture interacting with the person. So if you hear a rustle of clothing or something like that, there's a very good reason to make a mic change. There's a very good reason to take the time to place it well, to hide it well. The last person that I did an episode with, we had most of our conversation about Nurtone, wild tracks. A wild track is basically if you wanted to hear what this room sounds like without anyone talking in it. So right now you can hear a fan on one of the cameras, maybe. No, it's the fan on the light up there. You can maybe hear some of the traffic outside. All of these things are the bass track behind that, and they all come into play in some way. So if you have a siren that goes by outside at the exact moment that someone says a sentence or something like that, it all affects exactly how the audience will perceive it in the end. And so situations like ADR, going back, re-recording all of these things or whatnot. But of course, to save time and money, doing it right in the first place is very much worth the time and the effort. And of course, it's a lot of fun. It's a puzzle piece to figure out how to get something on somebody without it interacting at all in any way, acoustically, sound-wise, to work with the different types of fabrics that clothes are built out of. That's insane. Plastic fabrics as opposed to cotton fabrics, or chest hair as opposed to completely shaved. That's another one. Why I was asking you before I put the mic on and listening to if I heard your beard moving across.
Yeah, the collar.
Yeah, if you hide something in a collar, but someone has this type of facial hair, this style and whatnot, where there's a little bit of stubble, and it's a plastic shirt, all you hear is just like
the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane.
I thought about shaving. Then something said,
No,
shave.
No.
Don't shave again.
What I'm really hoping at some point is the mustache.
Oh, that the mustache comes back. Yeah, what was it, 2011, when I had an exhibition at Priscillaplatz. I had been growing this Dali mustache.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it reminded me of.
And as Dali did, I was using my own earwax to
what
form
the
it. But see, that's the perfect stuff. You don't have to go look for mustache wax and stuff. Your own earwax.
But why is it perfect?
Because it's au natural.
Just readily available?
It's natural.
Okay.
It's wax.
Yeah.
And of course you wash your face and all this stuff, but right on those tips, it's just natural, and that's what they were using.
Is there any kind of smell of that?
No.
Like absolutely no.
I wash my face. I have to do the whole thing, and then the mustache actually starts growing, but you have to, at the tips, you have to keep it turning.
Yeah.
Earwax is the best.
Yeah, but how much earwax?
It's yours.
How much earwax?
Whatever you got. Whatever you got. I mean, you're just working on the tips. It's yours. That's it.
Oh, for me, that's one reason why I never did that. Why my mustache looks exactly the way that it does at the moment. I can't handle the feeling of wax in it.
But you don't even notice it.
Oh, I do.
I can't be like promoting.
For some reason, I do.
You notice? You try it? Putting
wax, yes. Earwax, no.
Yeah, earwax.
But just wax in general, just something that slightly holds it. But if you're saying that earwax has a completely different feeling than anything else.
I bought some of that stuff, but you're always looking for a jar.
Yeah. I tried it a couple of times. I was never looking for a jar because I immediately was just like, this ain't my thing.
Yeah, I had it for a while, and then I cut it off. It was like, okay, Dali did it. I've done it. There's a picture. I think I sent you a photo.
Yeah, it's a fucking fantastic picture. It's one I would almost love to use for the thumbnail of this.
Yeah, it's a different me, but
yeah, it's just a slight misrepresentation of the present moment.
I was actually thinking about doing it again, and so I'll see. I have an itching to have it again.
How long did it take you?
Oh man, that took a year, really.
Oh shit!
Because you've got to let it just grow first, and then you have to start splitting it.
Sure. And the splitting gets a little bit hard,
and then start twisting it. You don't need to put wax there.
Yeah.
Only when it's off your face, and you have to start twisting it. Because if you don't have the moisture there, you'll twist it and it just starts breaking. You just be like, oh shit, I'm losing hairs. But you have the wax on there, and it's smooth, and then it'll curl up and do that thing. It was lovely. Yeah, so I'm beyond that phase now. So yeah, the paintings didn't change. It was still the same me. Sure. So it's like you try this, you try that, and just phases in life. I was like, before I kick the bucket, I'm gonna have a Dali mustache.
Before I kick the bucket, I'm gonna have a fucking incredibly ornate jacket. That's exactly what this style choice is at the moment. It just it came along. There was a lovely person that produced it and made it, and went, "Whoa, this jacket, maybe it fits you." And
it does.
It fits fucking perfect. It feels like it was made exactly to my body specifications.
To do
I
this.
wish I could wear it every day of my life at this point. It's.
What are the reactions when you're out?
I wore it on set yesterday for the last day. Just had a little walk around to catering and whatnot before starting work, and it's kind of like the situation, or not the situation, but the style choice of the tiny pink shorts. Do you know anything about the tiny pink shorts?
Please tell me.
So the tiny pink shorts is a thing that came from, I think, a boom operator on Star Wars. Okay. There was a behind-the-scenes photograph, just like some kind of top shot-ish, very far away, and you see the entire crew and everything, middle of the desert. There's the speeder with Luke in it and everything, and you just see a guy there shirtless in tiny pink shorts, booming, and I think he's got gloves on, maybe because of how hot the boom possibly was or something, but perfect tan, tiny pink shorts. And so it just started this thing among boom operators of the tiny pink shorts, and people get a huge fucking kick out of it. It's purely me doing things like this is just for the purpose of creating a smile on set, showing up, creating a very good energy, and having people go, whoa, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? I'm interested, it's fun, it's nice, and talking to you means that I get to be a part of it in some way. And it's
hopefully you remember me, that I spoke with you.
No.
No, I mean the people who come on set that try to get a bit of who you are into them, you know?
Sure. The giving part of who you are in a very honest and complete way, a very raw, emotional way, a very, this is me and I love myself. I don't need you to love me, but I would love for you to feel the love that I have for this situation, why I'm here, who I am. That is an infectious, beautiful feeling.
Yes.
And that of course is also one that I try to spread as far as possible upon or within any set that I go on. That just this feeling of, okay, it's not like we have to have fun all the time, but that doesn't mean you have to be incredibly pissed about every situation. Maybe the organization is totally fucked, but that doesn't mean that your entire being has to become poison in some way. You can just say, okay, well, yeah, this is fucked. Let's deal with it. Let's find a way through it. Let's find a solution. If there is no solution possible, just say, fuck it. Okay, there's no solution possible at the moment, but I will survive. It's not fucking heart surgery. And... Ooh.
No, you.
Oh no! What the fuck am I doing? What the fuck am I doing?
You can give me that.
Oh yeah,
one.
you don't twist the S.
No, I don't twist the S.
I always twist the S. Love life. Be around. Experience it. Figure it out. Find some challenges. Create challenges for yourself.
Yeah.
That's one of the beauties of my job. Not only do other people create really amazing challenges for me to solve, for me to figure out. I can often create challenges for myself. A lot of people look at the way that I do my job and think, why are you doing it that way? Or why do you feel like you have to go to such extremes or something like that? One of the reasons is personal body health.
Okay.
I mean, so if you think about the image of a boom operator, what do you usually think? If you were to just paint a picture in your mind, the first thing that comes to your mind of what a boom operator is doing and how they're doing it in that moment, what are they doing?
I can't even imagine. It is in a stressed out position.
Okay.
Looking for a way to stand still because any type of a movement they make is going to create a sound and they don't want to create a distraction. So how can you hold a pose in your zen?
Well, the thing that I do my best to get away from is holding a pose, period. So I will hold my mic in a position, but holding a pose, usually not. I will move my feet in some way, I'll move my body in some way that I do my best to keep the stress out of my body and my muscles, to never get to the point where something feels like it needs to cramp or hold in that one position. So even if it's just this tiny little movement, this tiny little dance, constantly keep my muscles moving in some way, even though the mic's going to stay in the exact same place, or just accentuate my movements if I am moving along and doing things, because then hopefully, which I have before I really figured this out and got into this feeling of constant movement, you will get to the point where your vertebrae start getting pulled out in different directions. My neck pops at the moment. That didn't do that 2 years ago. All of these stresses that you put on your body through these situations, if you're really trying to hold just one position, and then you're doing take after take after take after take, you're putting such an insane amount of stress on your muscles and telling them they have to do this thing and only do this thing.
And certain muscle groups too. Other muscle groups aren't being used.
You're teaching this weird, crazy loop to your body of just constant stress. And so, yeah, I do my best to keep some form of tiny, even fluid movement that just keeps the energy moving in some way and doesn't lock, doesn't get stuck.
That's painting. Keeping it fluid.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like, I don't want to find myself doing this for 30 years. You know, I create a bigger piece. I've got some abstracts in the basement. I was like, maybe, but it may not have fit for today.
Abstracts.
But yeah, yeah. And they're on Molton.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's black.
Yeah. Wait, you painted them on Molten?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've stretched them. They're in squares, and
Holy
I want to
shit.
make more of those because they're really elastic. When you paint against them, they vibrate.
Yeah.
They're like not as stiff as canvas.
Yeah.
And it has to be right the first time. There's no erasing. You don't get it out of Molton. You don't go back and redo anything because the Molton has its own texture.
Okay.
And you cannot get it out. So you have to go for it. So it's a different gear that you have to switch into. So that, watercolor, to acrylics, oil, drawing, charcoal. And this is the thing about fluidity in being a boom operator.
Yeah.
It's related to painting also, you know. You don't want to get stuck because you lock up something that shouldn't be locked up. And so this whole act of creating art is, you know, it has to stay alive.
Sure.
And to do the good job of a boom operator, you have to stay alive. For the longevity. You don't want your neck popping.
I definitely
Because then
don't.
you'll find yourself on set popping it.
I do it every day, unfortunately.
Oh, on set.
Yeah.
But before a take.
Yes.
Or right after a take, you go.
Well, usually it's not every single take or something like that, but maybe 3 or 4 times throughout the day, my neck will get stuck in some position. There.
So that's the one thing you got to work on now? Or?
Yeah. Well, I need to get in touch with somebody that actually knows how to release whatever tightness is going on that's pulling those vertebrae off.
Massage. Relax, relate, release. Yeah, a massage.
Relax, relate, release. Explain, please.
That's just something that I heard a long time ago, but
As in that is the purpose of the masseuse, or that is the purpose of you getting the massage? And in what sense do you mean by relate?
I don't know what relate means there,
Yeah.
but that was the thing that triggered this relax, relate, release, is releasing the tension in the bones, in the muscles, is through the massage, of course. And plus, even if you get a massage, you have to
Sure, you got to
bring it up here.
You have to get into it. You have to allow it to release itself, or not allow it to release itself, but find some way to focus on it and help it release. Sure. I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'll find some time for it. I'll make some time for it. It is very much important, extremely important. I mean, if anything, your body is your greatest tool.
Yes.
It is the one thing you've been given that no one can take away from you until you die, basically. And
at that time, you give it up.
yeah, you give it up.
Yeah, they don't have to take it.
Then, no,
You just
it's
give it
over
up.
with.
Don't need this body anymore. I'm going somewhere else.
It's an old used tool. No,
I'm making a move.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah, for me, I take walks, and I'm outside singing and stuff, and it's all a part of this relaxation that you have to go through. Because when you're sitting in the studio, usually I'm quiet. I can't really scream and sing all the time when I'm working on really tight artwork. So if I'm listening to music, that's sort of a thing where I sort of imagine the singer or the band doing their thing, and that's the out for that type of energy. But then when I'm out in public, I'm singing because I wasn't able to sing while I was in the studio.
Okay.
Yeah, while doing the work. So it gets out.
finding an outlet. That is very much a worthy endeavor. I would say for me right now, this podcast is definitely an outlet of creativity, an outlet of discussion, of finding ways through discussions, communication. I love communicating. I love finding ways to communicate with people in their own language, seeing what they're about, who they're about, what they're about. Well, I said what they're about already.
Yeah, for me, it's like right now, being able to speak in an adult manner about what I do, and it's not about teaching, it's not about trying to translate what I do, it's just about just telling you what it is and not sugarcoating it. When you're with students, you have to try to break it down to things that they understand before they've gotten into the full-fledged knowledge of having done it themselves and gone through the trials and tribulations of it didn't work or it worked well. You know, selling your artwork is the point after they have learned, oh, I'm now an artist. You know, I never thought about if I were an artist or not. I've been drawing and painting since I'm 5 years old. I didn't even know it was a job. I was just doing it and was still making money with it, making drawings at school, drawing the Easter Bunny for the classroom board, and then moving to do the Thanksgiving turkey or Santa Claus. And whenever there was something to be drawn in kindergarten, the teachers would ask me to go out there and do it. And whatever you need, we'll get you whatever you want. And so I'd make all these drawings and collages for the school. And I would get out of class to be able to do that. I was smart enough to continue, so they never really worried about me. And so that moved into elementary school. And in elementary school, you know, you were dissecting worms or starfish, and the teachers in science class would want us to make these detailed drawings of the incisions and stuff. And other kids were like, I can't do it. Moses, can you do mine? And they would pay me for that. And I'll be like, yeah, I can do it. And then it just took on. And more kids started paying me to do their drawings for the science class or biology. And then I'm drawing the cell. I'm drawing things about mitosis. I'm drawing about turgor pressure in plants. And I'm reading all of this stuff. So science became very important to me. And then I started looking at old books on botany. I was all into all types of stuff, man. And so while they were just paying me the money, I was actually learning about botany and bones and different circulatory systems in animals. I grew up on a farm, so this was already interesting to me to start seeing inside animals and what made them work and stuff. I mean, I'd seen dogs tear chickens apart, and someone was looking at all the bloody guts and stuff, but I wasn't sitting there drawing it. But when I'm looking at a manual about what are the small intestine, large intestine, aorta, or different parts of the heart, looking at how the lungs function and how that is connected through the nose of humans. You know, I didn't see a cadaver until, actually, I was in my first year of med school before I decided to go full force on art.
Okay.
Can you believe that? I was already in college thinking, I'm going to be a doctor. I want to be like some people on television being doctors. And so it was in college when I realized, I can't do this. I can't fix these bodies. We're going to die. What can I do to leave something happy behind? Something that I'm passionate about. I have to make a decision now, or I'm going to be in med school for the next 15 years, either getting a praxis or going to some hospital where people are coming in sick every day. Do I want to be a part of that? There are people who are geared in it and they want to do that. But something about me wanted to travel the world. And I was like, how can I travel the world? How can I be in a happy place? Where is that? It's not in a hospital. You know, I was watching Dr. Trapper John, MD. I don't know if you know anything about that. Or it was just these old sitcoms of hospitals and stuff. If you watch MASH.
Sure, I watch MASH.
So it's the same time. I'm watching with my parents, watching MASH, watching Dr. Trapper John, MD, or watching Murder, She Wrote, or another show, Matlock. And so they're solving these cases of dead people or who murdered who and what on. And I just realized, I don't want to do this. You know, I need to change my major. But what am I going to do? And then I just sat down and started drawing. hey, maybe I should study art. What can I do? How can I? And so I went to the university, told them I didn't want to do med school anymore. I want to change my major to art. I went and looked at the art department. Hey, they're using clay in here, acrylic paints. They're painting with the color wheel. And, you know, I had already, as a child, I'd been looking in encyclopedias and looking at sculptures and Medusa. You know, little kids who want to see snakes and stuff. We want to see Sisyphus pushing the big rock up the mountain and reading. I had an encyclopedia, the set of encyclopedia, the World Book Encyclopedia. And then I had the Britannica. And by looking into these books, I was always involved in history and looking at world history through art. I wanted to see these places where these things were coming from. Why is the Vatican so big? Who built it? The Sistine Chapel. Michelangelo was on his back for 4 years painting in the top of a building. And whenever you see a documentary on television about any of this, you know, they'd show you Italy, they'd show you Venice, they'd show you France, they'd show you the Louvre, and all of these fancy people all dressed up. And that's all that came into me at one point. I was old enough then to say, I want that. I want to see that place. I want to go there. I want to see France. I want to see Spain. I want to see Italy. I want to go to London. I want to go to the Tate. Started studying art, getting scholarships, moving around. And it was the best decision I made in my life. Like we're sitting here now, you know, meeting inspirational people like yourself has been that ongoing drive. It's not about my art. It's about living this life.
Sure.
And, you know, that you guys drove all the way out here to sit with me and that we had our conversations and stuff. You know, I really respect that. My lucky stars is what I'm talking about, you know. I'm not looking over at Luca too much. No. You know,
This
I'm
is
like,
a fucking
thank
team
you.
effort.
I'm like, thank you. You know, it goes beyond what's happening right here. It goes beyond the care of setting it all up. It goes, and see, it's not about the paintings. A painting without proper lighting is nothing.
Yes.
Without light, there is no form.
Yeah.
My life is about form. How do you form it? You communicate with people. You look out and you see, who do I reflect in? Who's seeing me for who I am? And how we met those many years ago. Doesn't matter what job I was doing, because it's all about the art for me, the art of living. And, you know, sitting here right now, you know, we've gone through so many changes since we've last met.
Boy, an insane amount of changes.
And the positions that we're in now, it's like, it still holds true. I would rather be here than in an operating room trying to fix a broken body.
That's exactly where I started. Not in an operating room, but my first job was not working in a hospital, but taking care of old people at their homes. I was doing in-home healthcare in California right out of high school. And from there, I moved on to getting a job in a hospital and working on the med-surg floor, so people going into and coming out of surgery. And that, for me, at that time, really was my passion. That the amount of attention and care that I could give to people, just like this, as in every single person in there was a person to me. The reason that I left it, though, was because of realizing how much of it was an industry, the medical industry, that people are really treated more like barcodes and pieces of meat, and that they have some kind of price tag on them, or whatever is stuffed into them has a price. And how much can you make off of how much you can put into somebody, and that really got to me. That really got to me.
Check it out.
And at that time, I was really, I had a side hobby, which was longboarding and making short films about longboarding, like really artistic short films, not about just doing tricks and stuff like this, but really about the cinematography behind it. My brother and I spent a lot of time just following around the friends that we had, this friend group that we got in touch with in California, and just filming everything almost in a documentary kind of a way, and just editing it together and finding ways to make it feel beautiful or add music to it and really give the feeling of what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it, that it's not about just trying to get somewhere or do something, but really enjoying those moments, all of those moments. And that's what led me back to Hawaii, and then to this and that and this and that, and working in restaurants and bars and all of these kinds of things, really always finding situations to communicate with people and stay in touch with people. But then, of course, that led me to meeting other people that got me into doing short films and stuff like this, and having all of these situations where teamwork comes in. And you start to learn, okay, it's not just about communicating with people in a way that is free time, but it's worth it to get into learning how to communicate with people efficiently, how to get something done, how to herd all of the cats in the same direction, because they're all going to want to run in their own direction and do their own things and all of these things. And the way to direct them, or the way to pull them together, is to really build this, not so much of a web, because that sounds so constricting, but something that links and grabs and entices and gives this feeling of, do you want to be here? Do you want to be a part of it? If you really do, then find what it is that you really want to do within what we're doing right now. Express yourself. Mm-hmm. Give as much as you want to give. And if that's you giving your everything, if that's you giving all of your creativity, then please do it, because that'll be everything that the end product is. Mm-hmm. It comes from me, but also you. It comes from everybody that's involved. Mm-hmm. And so the more that you have that opportunity to say, I want to put in my time, my energy, my effort, my life. I want to give a little piece of my life, a part of my life, to have this be something that I'm willing to look back on and say, wow, I'm so fucking glad I did that. That was a part of my life, that it's a memory that hopefully I will never lose, and that it's something that I constantly reflect on, or even if it's not constantly, something at the most opportune moment, it reminds you, and you smell a little scent on the wind and go, holy fuck, I was there at that one time, mm-hmm. and this thing happened, and I was a part of it, and these people were a part of it. And that's the beauty of taking this trip all the way here to come and talk with you, that the entire experience is what makes this moment right now, to put in all of the time, the effort, the beauty, the energy. Mm-hmm. It's something that why I love creating situations like this, where there will always be a camera that can see everything that goes into this, all of the background, no matter how many people I can get in on it, that at some point they're in front of the camera, that you see the people that make what happens, and not just think about the end product, not just see what is there at the end, and that, oh yes, maybe it's a beautiful thing and it really affected me, but there were a lot of people that spent a lot of time to make it happen. And hopefully they had a great time doing it. Mm-hmm. Really fucking hope they had a great time doing it. I do my best to be a part of making it a really fucking great time doing it. Yeah.
I'm having it.
This camera's about to overheat. We need to take a 10 minutes break.
We need to take a 10 minutes break.
To let it cool again.
Okay.
And I can change batteries.
Sure.
And then we can...
Should we wait 10 minutes for that camera specifically, or just shut it off, leave the close-up gone, and go on with the other ones? Or
then you can take 5 minutes break, or...
You can totally take 10 minutes break, of course. 10 minutes break it is. I've never had to do a 10 minutes break before in the middle
insured,
of a podcast.
Maybe. Oh man, I've got it insured, but man, we're burning it up like that on the first shot.
Is there no liquid cooling system in there, or what?
Does any of the rest of them overheat?
No, they all have hands.
Yeah.
Oh no. So it's too low end.
No.
And the thing is...
It's got a high-end lens on it.
I'm going to take a piss now. Finally.
Overheating it.
We didn't stop the sound recording, did we?
No.
Woohoo!
Man, I can't believe it. It's... Wow.
No, that makes total sense. I mean, it...
I put it there. You can actually close the door now if you like. I care. My life is about the light. Oh, there's this thing I want to say, and it's from Bane. He goes,
Bane, as in Batman Bane?
Yeah, you know that line, he goes, "You think the darkness is your ally. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was an adult." I have to say the whole thing, I have to figure it out, but I love how he says that.
Dude,
You think the darkness is your ally? I was born in it. I gotta get that back.
Tom Hardy did such an insanely good job. Such an insanely good job. This type of kind of like when Heath Ledger did Joker.
Oh wait, I gotta. Oh, go ahead.
Go. What?
You think the darkness? No, you think the darkness is your ally. No, let me see. You think the darkness is your ally. I was born in it, molded by it. No, but he also says something between it. You think the darkness is your ally? You merely adopted. You merely adopted the dark. You think the darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark. You adopted it as like his thing because Batman thought he could just switch out the lights.
Yeah.
But Bane.
Are you giving me another bit? Oh.
So I told you we should have bought more. We out. We are out.
Oh, there's two. You drank two already?
No, I only have one.
There's four. Oh yeah, two are Lucas.
Bastard.
How is it? It's actually a pretty good
We
one.
could like share it. We could like dip it.
No.
It's really not bad.
It's a pretty
not
damn
bad.
good beer.
That's not 10 minutes. Let's.
Let it go.
I can't
Give it
believe
some time.
that. How long did it run? And it's
we
running
have
out.
no air movement
Why
in it.
does it? Why does it do that?
Maybe we can open the door, let a bit of cool air in.
It's taking a time. For a
Okay.
second. I'll change the battery as well, and then we can just keep going.
Why does that even
problem.
happen? I mean,
It's not their higher-end cameras, and they want to sell their high-end cameras.
but I don't get it.
The only reason it happens. I don't think it needs to happen physically.
I just don't get
We
it.
should keep asking Luca questions now that he's on the boom.
Because with other cameras you could just shoot videos. I mean, think about cell phones. But I know
lots of cameras actually overheat in that pricing.
But that one said it's gonna overheat.
Yeah.
So, and what did that look like? Does it say?
Like an orange light blinking,
Okay.
and then it just shuts off at some point.
Did it? Okay, so it's not damaged in any way.
No.
It has a good sensor and knows. Okay, I need to slow our roll. How long have we been rolling?
It stops recording after 30 minutes, so every time I have to start.
Oh, and then, isn't there a way to set that it doesn't?
No. It's also pricing.
Excuse me? It doesn't just do continuous shooting? Which one does?
Those two.
And what is that over there?
A DSLR doesn't do continuous shooting.
It's a tax thing in Germany.
Like what?
A photo camera that records only 29 minutes and 59 seconds.
Are you kidding me?
Has to pay less tax than a
Yeah,
photo camera,
but that's
and
not-
therefore they don't put it in.
But that's not just in Germany.
So
I remember that from DSLRs in the States as well.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, it could be the exact same situation, that it's a tax thing.
But it isn't a tax thing.
Is
It
there?
used to be a tax thing. Some cameras don't have it anymore because the manufacturer is like, we're gonna put the battle feature in as well.
Okay.
So I can only shoot for 29 minutes and then it's just gonna shut off.
Yeah, and then you have to press it again.
Yep.
There's no workaround.
No.
Yeah.
Except if you record externally. You can buy a recording and plug the cable in and record with that.
But of course, I mean, how often are you going to shoot 29 minutes straight?
Yeah,
And then also get to the point where it is that much of a bother to just press record again as soon as it stops?
Well, I missed it one time now, so I missed like 30 seconds of you speaking.
Ah, okay. Sure. But if you're in a situation like this where you're
really recording and documenting something for such a long time. But if you're doing like a music video shoot or something like this, what you bought it for, you're going to be running clip after clip after clip after clip, and you're not doing a 29
continuous shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Then
29 minutes.
No one's shooting like that.
Well,
except
I mean,
when you're at that level, then you're already footing the bill for bigger and better cameras. I'm kind of let down right now because I didn't know that feature was on there.
I mean, if you're doing some kind of documentary thing, like if, say, you were going out in the street and shooting a protest or something like this, dude, thank you. You keep supplying me with rolled cigarettes and whatnot. But you
I'm your pusher man. Oh, that's the song I listen to, too. So, yeah, man, thank you for telling me that. But I'm sad that you're telling me that because maybe I'm naive. But it's in this country that they do that. But in another country, the camera would keep going.
No, I'm pretty sure it's just DSLRs. Like that's something about them.
Camera costs less in tax.
Man, why are they fucking with us? It's a camera.
He just answered you. Taxes, money. It's all about the money, man.
Man, I ain't got time for nothing like that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I just wanna live.
Dude, if you look out this door at the moment, it almost looks like the blue screen from the reflection that we got going on. It almost looks like the blue screen from last night. Yeah.
I'm really upset still.
Dude.
Running hot, can't shoot no more than 29.99, 29.5 59 seconds. And then it's just gonna shut off.
We didn't talk about this painting yet.
We don't have to.
We don't have to.
No.
Well, the cameras aren't on at the moment, so no one
That
knows
was-
what the
that
fuck we're talking
painting-
about when we say this painting. Over
I mean, we can talk about it without the camera.
We could also
rolling.
leave it a mystery. No, it's
not. It's not a. See, some things I do, they don't have the same importance as others.
Yeah.
But they might look good.
Sure.
And
Sure.
there are parts of it that went with certain aesthetics that I care about, but there were other points in it where I had to just finish good, finish strong. And then you move to the next one.
Sure.
So it is
Complete something. Make sure you actually complete it as opposed to
yeah,
just
and so
leaving
this is the dark side of painting, is that every artist can say a lot of big things about their work, but there are paintings that will exist that they don't have anything to say about. You don't even like it. You finished it. It may look good. It may look good to others, but you're not attached to it in any way.
And that's one of them.
I would say that if I lost this painting, I would not be okay with that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't spend 15 minutes talking about it.
Gotcha.
I made it. I know why I made it. I know that I wanted to talk about the university where I was and that I had to say, hey, point, look at this. And that's the reason. It's got a lot of weird angles in it, and that's based on something that Picasso was saying in his styles. There are many styles in this painting.
Yeah.
And that's always been the cusp of why university professors were sort of against what I was doing. But if you look back at Leonardo da Vinci, when he painted the Mona Lisa, the backgrounds were not following the same perspective. He twisted it. Okay. There's a lower portion of the aerial perspective, looking into the distance, looking out into the space, where that one and the one on the hill on the other side of the Mona Lisa, they're not in the same perspective.
Okay.
And that turned a lot of people off, and it irritated
consciously or subconsciously?
Historians. He did it consciously. Leonardo da Vinci did everything
turning
consciously.
people off. And I asked this in the sense of just because I feel like there's some reason for me to find some type of relation between you and I in this type of thing. It is that same situation where there can be many different things that happen within your subconscious as you're watching a film, and many different things that happen within how you record it or how you display it as a piece of art that you have to think about, that how that will affect the subconscious. And people might not like something subconsciously, just have like this tiny little nagging feeling that's just like, I don't quite like this. And they might not be able to put their finger on why. And so I'm wondering, when you're talking about people not liking it or making them uncomfortable, is that something that you're talking about that they consciously were really looking and saying, well, I don't really fucking like this perspective? Or was it something that was more of just like a lot of people had a subconscious, very under the...
You speak about subconscious. You speak about subconscious, and in Italian, the painting is called La Gioconda, meaning the smile. But this referenced the woman he painted, who was of, I would say, a higher breed. It was a wealthy family that he was painting it for, and he never delivered. He never gave. They probably even paid him for it.
Okay.
But he never gave them the painting.
Okay.
They may have given him like down payments on it.
Sure.
He kept the painting with him between his times of moving between Florence and Rome, but he never gave the painting to the sitter.
Why?
And then he painted different versions of it.
He painted different versions of
He painted different versions of the Mona Lisa.
Okay.
And he wasn't happy with them at a certain stage. And this one, the one that we know as being the famous one, is the one he never allowed the public to receive, in the sense of him returning this commission to the sitter. Although he had several sittings with her. And it is said that she was pregnant at the time.
Okay.
But who knows? They're just looking at the painting and they're saying she was probably pregnant. These are people who analyze paintings. But what they're looking at is the backgrounds. And I think Leonardo da Vinci was facing a lot of things because his artwork wasn't being regarded as well as his sense for mechanics and creating war machines. So they used him to create these. He created the first tank.
Okay.
He created catapults. He created the first helicopter flying machine in his drawings, and now they can make that work through his designs without doing anything else. He couldn't create it himself. He made the first designs. But in a painting like that, he was doing something that no one else had ever done, which was using two different perspectives in a painting, and to create the sense of a smile without actually putting it there. So there was this diffuse near the edges of the lips, and that the eyes can follow you.
Yeah.
You know, no matter where you're standing in the room, she's looking at you. You're standing over there, you're standing there. She's looking at both of you. She's looking at everybody. It doesn't matter where you are. So it is that gaze that he perfected. And through that, you know, there are things that didn't work in his time that we're praising now. And in a painting like this that I'm creating, I've twisted some parts of the wrist that don't work. I've disjointed things. I've brought shadows into places. We're in the digital age, and so I did some things with cameras, taking photos of it and changing going into the luminescence of the photo, and then going and changing the highlights and stuff, and bringing that back into the painting. So it doesn't work on just a straight-on viewing of it. And I'm wondering what's going to happen now I'm talking more than 15 minutes about it, but then there's a part there that is really not under her axle, under her armpit. There's this open space there, which you don't do that in painting. You don't leave that portion like that. But I'm looking at abstract art, and if you're looking at paintings in any sense, you have not represented a person. You're just putting splotches of paint in places where people can recognize features. Everything is abstract. Even we are abstract. Until we get down to an anatomical level, you're looking at atoms just swirling around each other. Sure. Electrons. We're not really sitting in these chairs. We're floating above them. Because the force it would take for those things to touch would cause a nuclear reaction. We would be exploding continuously because you cannot merge with these things with the force that we're using on them. So really, we don't have these clothes on. We're not sitting in these chairs. Nothing is touching.
I really love.
So in the plate there,
perspective.
the food has been eaten. You know, plastic forks and spoons and paper plates or plastic plates. It's because that's the word Gesellschaft. That's the community that we live in. Is it digestible, what we've had? Well, she's eaten her share. She's full. She's done. She's eaten it, and she's now pointing towards her lips, these big, juicy lips. Some people say it's a self-portrait of me. And people are like, did you paint your face? I'm like, no, it's a woman. Like, don't you see the breast? You can at least see one breast. A lot of women show up in my
but it's
artwork.
all about those big juicy lips.
The big, juicy lips. So I've added elements there. You know, I was nearing the end of my time at the university. I was done with them. I was about to graduate with my master's degree. And I was like, what can I do to just show that I've eaten this and I'm moving on?
Sure.
You have to fulfill certain requirements. You have to fulfill certain requirements in order to get a degree. But what does a degree say that you can paint? Does a degree say you can sing? You have to be able to sing.
Sure.
But there's like, we need you to do this and that and that. I'm like, what? So I've bombarded this piece with
criteria.
Yeah, that and twisting it in such a way until the background is no longer any space that you could recognize. It's just a haze.
Yeah.
Because they're all behind me. None of them, you know, wherever those people are now. And I hate to say it on camera, but it's history.
Sure.
It's just history. Because you can't have heroes in that sense. People that you can touch. You have to aspire. And I speak about artists from art history. They've set something in place that you can grow from. Of course, professors can do that too. But when they kick against you, then you're hating them. And in that, now I go back and maybe I need to eat my words, but even that dislike forced me to make decisions that I like.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
So whatever issues I was having with them, it moved me in another direction.
Yeah.
And if that repulsion is what it took for me to become who I am today, then I thank them for that.
Sure.
And I bounced out of that university and I got my degree. Sure. I just kept going. Yeah. Had exhibitions after exhibition after exhibition, sold works, but it's not even about that. There's just this freedom that I couldn't let anyone take from me to do what I want to do.
Take every challenge and turn it into something that you can learn from, that you can grow from. That's something that no matter what the set I'm on, even if I don't end up getting along with everybody or even anybody, there can always be the scene that attracts me, or the dialogue that attracts me, or the melody of the conversation that attracts me, something I can find in some way that attracts me, to continue with what I'm doing and think about it in a different way, change that perspective. Okay, well, if this isn't a very friendly set, even if it's a hostile one, then either way I'll find something that I can get out of it, that I can use it for. And even if that's just a very personal, tiny little thing that I implement within myself, take it with me, move on, and grow with it in that sense, add it to my being, for sure.
Many people don't know because, if you don't study art history, then you won't even hear about it. But Salvador Dali was kicked out of university. Salvador Dali. And that same university that kicked him out, he comes back after he becomes famous to give the first radio presentation that went to America.
What do you mean?
Salvador Dali gave a speech at that university, which was then broadcast worldwide.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think he expressed his disdain for all of the
organized schooling system?
Yeah.
Whoa. No, there's somebody upstairs. I wonder how that came across on the mics.
They're lively up there sometimes. They drop things.
Expressing his disdain. Why was it broadcast live?
Why was it broadcast live?
Wait, was it broadcast live, or why was it broadcast across the planet?
It was Dali at that point. And this was, well, I have to look at it again. I just read the story. But, he came back to that university and gave that speech. Because then they held him up. But he failed the university. But come back and give us your speech.
Sure, now that you're something.
Now that you're something.
we would love for you to represent.
Yeah.
And
it happens often.
say that we made you.
Yeah. It happens so often when you look at even actors or politicians who get a post, I don't know how they call it, but like Stanford University will call you in. It's like, you're a great actor, come and get an honorary degree. That's what it's called, an honorary degree over here, an honorary degree over there, and here's another honorary degree. And it's a legal degree. Yeah.
Okay.
They want to be attached to you some kind of way.
Sure. It helps their image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dali wasn't having that. And so knowing that story, I wasn't having that. And that happened also during my bachelor's degree. And what happened in that story was that I was preparing to graduate. Semester was about to be over. And I had my final pieces finished. Next thing I know, there was the school newspaper. They were doing interviews of the graduating class in the art department. And they came in and they interviewed me, and it was like, hey, you just pose in front of your painting? And, oh, this is a huge painting. How about acting like you're going to paint on it with your brush? And I said, okay, I'll hold it like this because I really like a certain pose from Jackson Pollock that he did in front of one of his paintings. So I did that. And they wrote a really nice article saying Moses Foster graduating from this school in this year. And there's some questions they asked. The next thing I know, in about 3 days, professor says, here it says you're graduating. We haven't said you're graduating. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So, long story short, during that same semester, I took a trip to Spain in that period for college credits. When I came back, my paintings, which were then due to be shown, were missing from college campus, from my studio space. Okay. All three of my thesis works disappeared. No one knew where they went. And that, it came from the head of the department. You can't tell the police because we don't know what happened. Don't go to the police. Don't go to the police. I was really young. They said, don't go to the police. Don't go to the police. Well, who am I supposed to go to? So I had to redo the work. It's like, you should have taken better care of them. I'm like, where am I going to store them? Where am I going to store? Where should I have stored them? They're here in the school. Why would someone steal my work? People loved it. They saw it in the newspaper. Students liked the work, and all of a sudden it's gone. So I went to New Orleans after they failed me that semester because I didn't have my work, and I had to come back another semester.
Okay. Crazy.
That led to me creating a series of self-portraits.
Okay.
And in those, I think there were eight of those self-portraits. Every week I came and I showed my disdain for the university. Like a really strict face. I may even be using it now because of everything that I'm thinking about. But I would come and show my professor this new portrait. What do you think about it? I'm discussing my work with you. And at one point they said, don't show them to us anymore. We've seen it. It's okay. Don't show us any more of those portraits. I would go to the other professor, showing them those self-portraits. I still have them with me today. I haven't sold one. Didn't want to sell them. It's sort of like this, the cross that you carry with you.
Sure.
You know, if students really want to know what it's like to be an artist, or you know, if you sell a piece for 15 or 20,000 bucks, what does it get you? Where do you get that confidence from? You know, you have to show yourself. You have to always present some side of your creativity, and in the university setting, you're at their mercy to do what they want.
Sure.
And I couldn't follow suit on that. I'd have to find some type of a way to show that I wasn't cool with that. And in doing that, showing them my unhappiness. Every week, showing them the self-portraits. Oh, please come look, I have new work. A new face of me looking down on them with a mean face. And sometimes a grimace. Always me. And they know me as a happy person, but after they did that to me, they saw the other side. And that wasn't, they didn't want to keep seeing that. So they said, don't show them to us anymore. And when I exhibited those paintings, I exhibited them a little bit higher than normal. So you'd actually have to look up to them. That burned. That burned. That burned.
That's fucking great idea.
I had to look up to the art, and you know, normally I was showing them to them like this, but when you elevate them a little bit higher, you become subservient. You can't fail me now, because I took those paintings home. I guarded those paintings with my life. So not one of them could come up missing. It's not something I like to show people. It's not a part of me that I like to enforce upon anyone. But that cost me a lot of time, what they did to me. And that was the way I could express it. And still graduate.
So you made it.
Out of the school, out of the university.
Sure.
You know.
Sure, and what does that actually say?
Yes.
What does that actually mean? I mean, that's definitely a situation that a lot of students within film schools face. Okay, you've studied something, you've gone through all of this time and this effort. Maybe you've spent money, maybe you've gotten scholarships or something like that, but what does the industry really recognize that is? Or what does it actually mean when you go to somebody with a paper that says, I did this, and I spent all of this time, and I learned this, and this is what I want to do. Yeah, and who do you know? That can be one of the amazing things. That can also be one of the killers. What this industry is based on not necessarily what you know, but who you know. You can spend so much time learning something and not figuring out, but really hopefully being taught the best way to do it, and all of the knowledge that's passed on down from one person to the next. But does it actually get you somewhere in those first steps? Not necessarily.
You know, in every sense of it, film, you have to be innovative. If we've seen it, and if we can connect you back to your predecessors, that can be a crutch, or it could be a part of what makes you successful.
Sure.
And you know, in singing, do you sound like this artist? In modern dance, are you copying Alex Haley? Are you copying this choreographer? You know, also in acting, where is your voice in it? When we look at architecture, when we look at a number of different architects and how innovative they have to be in order to get recognized. You look at someone like Norman Foster, or there are others out there too. It's tons of them. And the names don't come to me right now, but you know, to put your mark on this earth, you've got to make some people unhappy.
Sure, you're never going to please everyone.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever. But that's absolutely no reason to not go along with what it is exactly that you would like to do, what you really feel you should do, what it is that is your purpose for putting something out there in the world.
And even your way, you know, when you say, I have to keep moving, I can't just stand there still. If some director's like, this guy's still moving, there's so much back here in the background. He's holding the boom fine. But I don't like the way he's moving. But you're doing it for your personal health.
Sure. Thankfully, I've never really run into that situation, I do my best to be very respectful of eye lines. Do you know what I mean by eye lines? So in the same way that we're making eye contact at the moment, if say there's a cameraman here, and I need to see what you're doing because you are the actor. So of course there's a camera that's in your face and whatnot, but a cameraman behind a camera usually is hiding his face. I'm the person that's kind of around somewhere. There's another set of eyes that's actually tracking you, keeping some kind of mental calculation of everything that's going on. You see these eyes noticing you. They're really studying what the fuck is going on. And so there are times where there are actors that cannot handle that. First, the one thing that I really try and look for is if an actor makes eye contact with me in the middle of a scene, then it's like, okay, find a different way to do that as quick as possible, because if they are somehow distracted from what it is that they're doing, I don't want that. I don't want them to notice me. I want to somehow blend into the background as best as possible. But of course, get the product that needs to be gotten, get the best product that I can produce, as well as record the best product on set that they can produce, to somehow preserve what it is that they've done and allow everyone to see it, to hear it. To hear it, that's the big one. To hear it in a correct way that doesn't bother you. You don't want to ever think about, why did that sound weird, or why does it sound the way that it does, anything like that. But the eyeline thing is one that I really keep in mind, and that can come to hiding behind a cameraman, or hiding behind a trash can, or hiding behind the mic in that sense. It's just finding random things to hide my eyes, or wearing sunglasses at random times, just for the sake of not having a pair of eyes looking at you in, say, a moment where you're incredibly just so in those emotions that take place, and needing to somehow find your way into that role, into that character. To have someone studying you it can be a really hard thing to handle. And so, I just do my best to go that extra mile of just either communicate with them. Is it okay that I'm here because I have to be here? Do you have the understanding that, yes, I do have to be here to make it work, to do my job, so you're actually able to be heard, that the performance that you're giving is recorded in the best way possible? Or if I can, in some way, just go ahead and preemptively do that to help the situation. Sunglasses are a good one, a really good one.
Because that eye contact, they're focusing on the camera. And sometimes they're talking to someone else.
Sure.
When they're in the dialogue, and the camera switches to the other person, they know that it's the other person, but if they see you, you're not that other actor or actress.
Sure.
Yeah, so, and then you're intently focused on what your job is. You're looking at them, but you're not thinking about them in that way. You're seeing them as job.
Yes, of course, but a job that has feelings.
Yes, but I'm saying you're not looking at them. You're listening, but you're not thinking that's this actor, or how prominent this person may or may not be.
Definitely.
But you're like, I've got to make sure that I capture this right, and that expression that's coming out, I've got to make sure I move back, or I come a little bit forward with how I'm capturing it.
Of course, the big one is volume. To preemptively move your mic away, get it way the fuck away from someone who's about to scream or something like that.
So you're watching, looking for your keys. You got to know.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, and they have to expect it. So that experience is something where they've got a lot of pressure to keep themselves in character. Although there are those eyes.
There are those eyes.
Or even more eyes. Someone's trying to hide behind that.
Sure.
Boy.
There are some actors that are really great. They have absolutely no problem with anyone and everyone looking at them. They understand there's an entire set behind them, or behind the camera, or there to support them in the best way possible, hopefully, and don't get bent out of shape about it. But there are some where it's just like they're really sticklers about it, where it's just like, do not let anyone in my eye line, period. And just clear the entire fucking set, kind of a thing. And
Do the whole thing with drones.
Sure, you can look at it that way of like, okay, well, everyone has to be here in some way, but yeah, of course, there's also the other perspective. They also kind of need what they need. I can't just turn around and say, piss off, like, fuck off, and like, yes, of course, this, that, and the other. I do also do my best to see that other perspective, that if that is what you feel like you need, okay, maybe it is able to be accommodated, and maybe it should be.
Do they speak with you directly sometimes? Or
it depends. It totally depends. I mean,
they call you out and be like, this guy.
I've never had anyone call me out personally if I'm booming. Usually, or I think almost every person, I would say every person at this point, and some people have really made it a point where when I've noticed that eye contact happens in a situation, say like someone's really crying up, tearing up, crying, getting into something, and they accidentally make that eye contact with me behind the camera in the same way that I'm doing it. They're going through this whole situation, all of a sudden there's this little, just kind of off to the side eye contact thing. I will approach them if I have no other option, be like, is it okay that I'm here, or is there something else that I can help you out with or do? And I've had the wonderful experience of, I think every time that they're like, no, you have to be there. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. When someone actually understands what your job is, what you have to do, why you're there, why you're doing it, how you do it, that sympathy, that empathy, that's a wonderful thing. But yeah, I have had situations in other positions, not as a boom operator, where of course it's like clear the set or clear the entire eye line, these kinds of things. And I get that. That's where I can have that understanding. It's like if they have the feeling that they don't want any kind of distraction because they cannot handle that distraction, hey, that's them. That's them. It is who they are.
Yeah. Every situation new.
It can make, of course, a lot of things very stressful for a lot of people. I understand why a lot of people can get pissed about a situation like that, but hopefully the people can also look at the perspective of others. Do their best to understand others. That's always something that I go for, and hopefully try to push with this type of situation of understanding more people, communicating more, and just figuring out who they are, what their needs are. Think about other people. Think about yourself, of course. Stay safe. Figure out what you need, what you want, all of these kinds of things. But realize there's other people. There's other brains. There's other humans. There's other feelings. There's other emotions. And thinking about other people really gets you very far. Very, very far. Makes you a wonderfully likable person.
We want
It's
him
a purely
again.
selfish reason to think about others.
No, you learn it as you go, and you find your way to handle the moment. Sometimes you know the people beforehand, and you know what they accustomed to. Does anyone ever warn you?
About
sometimes what? About little things that could tick off or set someone off who's going to be on set?
Oh, 100%, of course, all the time. There's plenty of people that are.
Who normally does that? Who normally informs people of what could possibly?
Could be anybody. I mean, if I'm going into a job with a specific sound recordist that I work with or whatnot, and they know, okay, well, this and this director, or this and this cameraman, or this and this actor, they already have worked with them, and they understand, okay, they don't like this, they like that, this, that, and the other. That's one of the things that you should communicate to anyone who's coming along that doesn't know these people already. Are they a handful? Like, are they really just hard to handle, or are they really super smooth? That type of information always gets passed along. So it's kind of like earlier how you were talking about your name, Moses, Cologne, the hair, who it is that you are, and what it is that you put out in the world, and how that affects everyone else, but then on top of that, your reputation. How you are viewed, how you're seen, how you're received. That's information that will always be passed on, period.
Sometimes you'll get models, and they don't tell you much about their background. And next thing you know, you see them with their families out somewhere. Wow, didn't know that. Because people, they have different sides. They have this thing that they want to be sometimes. Like maybe it's a model, or maybe it's an actress, or it's a singer, and they don't talk about where they work or anything like that.
Sure.
Or, I've seen people in some very interesting places, shopping or walking through the city, and I wouldn't have placed this person in that role.
Sure.
And I'm like, wow, I'm glad that I didn't even know about that, because the painting would have been different, or the approach would have been different, or maybe not have approached the person at all. So there's always these characteristics or these facets that we show the world, and in this sense of putting that respect out there, it all comes back. And at one point, I had a young boy who come up, "You painted my mom, I like it." Because she had shown pictures, and like,
cool.
didn't know she had kids. Or wow, I'm glad you liked it, but I didn't know she would have shown you something like that. So it's like me coming from a really strict Christian background, and really everything is sort of pre-chewed for children, here.
Pre-masticated.
You're pre-masticated. I hadn't used that word in a long time.
Yeah, so that's a weird one.
Pre-chewed really doesn't even exist, but pre-masticated does.
Pre-chewed, it works.
But, the thing about nudity being so sensitive, I wouldn't have imagined a mother showing paintings or drawings like this to their small children. But that's what it's there for,
Sure.
That's my connection to the human figure, is that I respect it so much until I'm just awed by it. And the whole thing about the female form and all that it's capable of enticing, of its strengths, of, this productivity. And there's just this fertility that's there.
Productivity, fertility.
It is. Everything's there. Everything is in woman. I look at bodybuilders and I don't feel anything. I don't get this connection. And drawing all these muscles. I drew muscle men when I was 7 or 8 years old. I would actually stack muscles on there and have the barbells. I got through that as a kid. Big legs and tiny head or big necks. I would draw muscle and bodybuilders like that. But at one point it just stopped. I didn't have an interest in really getting into drawing men. And then at one point I started seeing older men and all these wrinkles, and I got into that.
Love wrinkles.
And so sculpting it actually like that, and making little stone sculptures of men's eyes, or what happens in the male face. But for me, it didn't go beyond that. It's more like sculpture, much like I was seeing in Roman architecture or Roman sculptures, where you would see the Caesars or men on horseback. And so getting into that was sort of more of a physical thing, but painting a woman is like a brushwork, drawing with a line, following the contours, not touching in that sense, but still touching with the materials that I have on that surface, and trying to reformulate that in a different sense. So, I'm looking at people all the time, and, I grew up, at age 16, I was already drawing and painting nudes, so I could just undress someone just by looking at them, and I would know if that form is something that I really want to create, or the way someone walks helps me to see, okay, and I would see everything that I need to see, and then I can approach someone and say, like, okay, I need you as a model in this painting, or pose like this with this other person. And this is what I'm trying to recreate. And you get a chance or you don't get a chance. And then that person is almost gone forever. You don't get a second chance. So back to you, you get one chance to make that eye contact. And if it's a moment that is a totally understood thing on set and you can work with it, it works. If it's something that won't work, then you always feel conscious and you have to divert your look. You have to look away or find a way to get out of that. That zone of being uncomfortable is something where it's a challenge each time you're on set. So I'm just looking at always the parallels between what we do and bringing that professionalism to it, that respect. Because you can say, you could wink at somebody who's delivering a line, and they say, "He winked at me." And say, "No, I didn't." And you always say, no, I didn't. This person's crazy. This actor needs to be locked up. I'm not winking. I'm not winking at her or at him. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure people do some stuff to just piss people off. But
I don't know, do they? Silent man in the background.
Is it there, you know? Is it or is it not happening? Is someone chewing gum on set? Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe
or tapping a foot.
Maybe my look says it all. No. I would say almost never have I don't know if I've really run across the situation of people doing things intentionally to piss other people off. But being either very ignorant, not understanding what it is that they're doing, how that affects other people. Yes, sure. That happens all the time. But ignorance happens all the time. That's just based on whether or not people feel like learning more about their surroundings and the other people that they interact with. Well, that's up to them. But there are a lot of things that I just lost my thought. What was it that you were talking about? Intentionally pissing anybody off?
Yeah.
No. Not that I know of, but I guess that's the end of my sentence.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back at some point. It'll come back.
After you roll that cigarette.
After I roll the cigarette, I guess I can't. I guess I can't multitask at the moment. Focus on two things at once.
I even had a lawyer pose for me once. I had no clue. She was a lawyer. She was really cool. She was just really cool. And that whole thing is like, how do you talk to people, how you present yourself. Wow, I'm going to get another one of those. And I think that's really cool, you know, because when I make exhibitions and I invite certain people and they come out, and then you hear it from other people, did you know she was a lawyer? Oh, no, I didn't. And sometimes, you know, people want me to paint portraits. I'm not really into that because then you really got to just key in on their likenesses. So just take a picture. But if you want a painting of mine, which would be a portrait, and through my view of how I see that person, then that's okay. But don't ask me to paint a photorealistic portrait of anyone because I'm not in it. Of course, I could tighten myself and do it. But that takes a different type of artist who really loves doing that. And I really love photorealistic work, but some of it is just so tight until it's like, whoa, that's dedication. That's dedication to stick with that for 3 months when it's down to like pointillism and catching different little highlights and stuff. Yeah, but you have some who work from projections, and that sometimes it helps them to capture it even tighter. And then I'm a little bit jealous because I never really learned how to work with a projector. I always thought it would make it easier.
As in you've tried it, but
projecting. No, sure. I looked at it, you know, but I just feel like it's just not my way to work.
Sure.
Because I'm then captured by an image of a photo that has to be just like that. And then it's like coloring in with crayons. I'm like, okay. And after I've done it, I'm not in it anymore. Yeah. Because if you don't do it exactly like the photo, then you're off. And I don't want to ever have to feel that. It's like I'm painting it in my way. The eye may be just a millimeter off, or the nose a little bit too big, but that's how my impression comes across. And then if I say, oh, I'm going to just really go all out and just make this really expressive, then it resembles you, but it could also be that person. You know, it depends. You know, there's that little leeway there for artistic license and using a person as a model, but not sticking to the blueprint of their likeness. And then you paint another one, and it's a little bit different, but you still captured a facet of that person.
Sure.
Yeah. So that works for me.
Well, that's kind of the point of caricature, right?
It is. They do overextend on some things, like making a huge nose or squinching the eyes in, but they still capture the essence of the person.
Exactly.
And I think that keeps it funny and interesting to look at. For a caricature in itself, that a caricature where you have artists who are really good at that, and they have to do it in like 15 minutes. Bam, 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 bam. They've captured it, and then it's so crisp. I worked under a guy, Bobby Pennebaker. He's a little bit taller than myself.
Okay. And
I met him in the mall. I saw him drawing. I think I was, 14 years old?
Yeah.
And I just stood there. Every time I would come to the mall, I'd stand there and watch him draw people. And I didn't know he had a daughter my age, and so she would sometimes come and be standing around playing. And at one point, I was there, and she came up, and we started talking. And she was just from the next town, but he was so open. He introduced me to his daughter, and we both liked drawing. And then he introduced me. He asked me if I wanted to come to his studio, and said she was going to be there too, and we could draw together. And so I was under his tutelage for caricature drawing.
Cool.
That was before I knew that I was gonna ever want to work at Disney. And so.
You've worked at Disney.
Yeah.
Anything you feel like talking about?
That's, film industry on that sense. You're with a number of different artists, and it's never a personal thing. So it's, you're just set there amongst 200 other artists working on a film. And so for me, it was before I really decided to venture out and do my own thing. And it's not under anyone else's name. So I love to just talk about my paintings and keep it away from other lines. Like you've done so many other jobs. It's like where does it end? So
hopefully it never ends.
I did this thing with Disney, and then after a while, it wasn't so long until I realized, you're replaceable.
Yeah.
That's no individuality there. You're forgotten if it's not working out, or if they decide, we want to reduce the number of hands we have here in the studio, and they can outsource for cheaper. And I was like, I don't see myself being here under those conditions where you're under the pressure of produce, and then it goes in another direction, and you're severed. You have your severance package. So that's what made me go on for my master's degree, because I was still in my bachelor's degree when I did that.
Okay.
Yeah, I took a year off to go work at Disney.
Okay. Outsourcing for cheaper.
Yeah, Orlando, Florida. So I was there at MGM Studios. But then when I realized that it could be anyone sitting there, it's not personal. It's a job. And for me, art isn't a job. It is a life, and it has to be yours.
Very personal.
You have to have that freedom to do it or not do it. And if you're doing it for the money, then you're not free. So I'd rather do another different job and have art as something sacred, where it's not for a monetary profit.
Yeah.
For it. And I wouldn't say it's a spiritual thing either, but it is something that will last longer than the money.
Yeah. Sure.
Your own creation. And that just led me on and on and on to finding myself here. I find myself being a mentor to students that I engage. I don't like to say teach, because you teach yourself, and I tell students that as well. I can't teach you anything. I can mentor you. I can show you information. I can show you a path, but you have to walk it. You have to do that. I don't draw for my students.
Okay.
I tell them what they can do to make that. I sometimes show them videos. But if I'm sitting there drawing, then they're watching me and they're not doing it.
Sure.
And I don't show many videos. I show them documentaries on artists' lives so that they can find something in themselves that relates to that lifestyle. And that should be the trigger, the fire under their asses to set them on their path. Because if you're gonna do this, it's a lifetime journey.
Sure.
And it's not just to get a grade, and it's not just to graduate, and it's not just to hold up a picture and say, hey, I did that.
Yeah. It's to find yourself. completely find yourself. Find a way to understand yourself, and also find the understanding that you. Because, or no, not because. Hopefully, if you're constantly chasing new things or chasing new experiences, you're finding plenty of things that will continue your growth in some way, and in that sense, you're an ever-changing being. And the understanding is always constant. Who am I? What am I? What am I doing? What do I want to do? How am I going to move forward with it?
Yeah.
How can I challenge myself to get better, or to find some new sense of inspiration? If I've hit a dead spot, writer's block, blah, 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 blah. Find a way to kick yourself out of it. I had a lovely conversation with my art teacher from high school. After I had already graduated and whatnot, I had kept in touch, and she really loved my siblings. So myself and my 3 other siblings, we were somehow her star pupils, in a way. We were the ones that were always looking for some way to do something different with the lesson that was given, or the project idea that was given. So like, there was this wonderful situation where she was like, okay, so here's the medium, tape. Clear tape, and what you're going to do is take this bottle, and you're going to cover it in tape, but the wrong side around, so it's sticky on the outside. And then you can go ahead and put whatever you want on it, stick it to it, and then put the next layer of tape the right side around. And then you have something that you can actually touch. It's not sticky anymore. And you take a very sharp knife and cut it off and take it out. And then you now have this mold of this thing, this shell of this thing that you've created with whatever colorful pieces of string or paper or whatever it is that you did. And my siblings and I were the type of people that looked at a project like that and went, can we put tape on our face?
Oh.
She was like, fuck yeah, do it.
Next step, yeah.
And so we ended up making like these entire head, face mold things out of tape, and just all of this colorful string and stuff like this. And so anyways, when I contacted her, first was the thing of, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing anymore as a teacher, because I don't have any hand sense in my classes anymore. The point being, I don't have students that are really looking to try new things. They're just like, okay, you told me to do this, I'm gonna do it. And they're not looking for the inspiration within what it is. Yes. And she also expressed that her love for photography had also kind of like waned and gone off in a direction where she was like, fuck, I don't know what to do anymore. The inspiration I once found in teaching has left me, and I just don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing. And I kind of gave her this idea. I don't know if she ever did it, but the idea was, of course, do your photography, but do something different with it afterwards. So develop it, print it, develop it, whatever it is, find some kind of thing. It doesn't even have to be the most interesting thing, but then bury it. Like, just take that photograph that you've developed and bury it in the ground, and just like see what happens to the decomposition of it.
That's what you told her.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if she ever did it, but it was just the most random thing that came into my head, and I was like, oh, what the fuck would happen if you buried all of your photographs and let them deteriorate in some way? Maybe you dug some up 6 months from now, or some 6 weeks from now, depending on how dry or how wet or how much rain or whatever the fuck.
Stick together or something.
Yeah,
and then you pull them apart, and there's like pieces and things happening there.
That's always a beautiful way to go. Just find something fucking random to do that you have no idea how the outcome will be, and chase it and just experiment. See what's going on.
I've had a couple of professors that I would have followed them anywhere, because they did exactly that. They challenged you without you even thinking about it. It's like, try this and look and see what happens, and without putting pressure. And then you go off and you just learn something. You've taught yourself this new thing. Oh, look at that. Wow. And then it's not about any ridicule or correcting it. It's what happened. And then you just keep moving, and they just step back. let it happen. And that's good stuff.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, that's good stuff when it happens like that.
That's good stuff. Does that sound like a wonderful place to end this lovely experience?
This experience does not end, there is a...
Yeah. This experience, of course, does not
This
end.
engagement.
This engagement.
This was the intro.
This was the intro.
This was the intro.
Of course.
Yeah. You've really kicked off something for me here, because I've seen there's a lot to be done during this Easter break. The boys are back in town, and it's go time. So I do appreciate this moment to get the cameras hot.
Make them shut off without any liquid cooling systems.
It's good. Thanks a lot for this.
Fuck, you're welcome. Thank you.
That old handshake going across, is it all right? You don't like that?
No, that's beautiful.
Oh, really? All right,
beautiful.
Good. Then
It's not a fist pound. It's not a fucking coronable.
Then we get one of those in there. Good, man. And then some of that.
Dude, we can.
There's so many. There's so many.
But the snap at the end is always a good one.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, have a lovely evening, everybody. Good night.
We don't have that much time on set. Sometimes you have to be quick, really quick. But for a good coffee, you need the time. You need the time.
Dirty Ambiance Podcast. We come to you wherever you might be. See you on set or on a mountain, in your kitchen or on a beach, where there will be lights, sound speed, camera rolling, action.
Like all artists do before an interview, they're unable to be coherent and their eyes are red. They will have to wear sunshade.
We'll back up like a few minutes. I'm gonna go take a piss again. Cool.
Puma's pasta, Puma's same, bro. It's totally the same.